Random Thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read part of Douglas Jardine's book, The Mad Mullah of Somaliland. This is a book that was published in early 1920s and is about Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. Douglas Jardine, of course, was a British official in Somaliland. He was like second or third in command between 1916 and 1921. Now, in this part I'm going to read about an attempt by the Abyssinians to attack and try to, of course, destroy Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. This was very early on. This is like 1900 or 1901 when they decide to go and destroy Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. It was actually in March 1900. They were seeing what was happening in Somaliland, and of course, Mohammed Abdullah Hassan, his father came from the Ogaden region, and he grew up in his mother's or with the people of his mother's side. And when he started his campaigns, he started moving between Somaliland and the Ogaden region. And that, of course, made, while his primary focus was on the British in Berbera, he was, of course, also targeting or looking at maybe fighting and pushing the Abyssinians out of the land he thought they should not control. And so when the Abyssinians saw that the British had just declared him officially as a rebel, and I've done a video about that, the Abyssinians made the decision that they were to attack him and try to destroy him. And they decided to do this by themselves, not with collaboration, or not as a joint operation with the British. This is the first attempt. They did it by themselves. Of course, maybe there was some logistical support from the British. And then after this failed attempt, it is now then that the British and the Abyssinians came together to try to do their first joint expedition. Now, but this one is an attempt that the Abyssinians did by themselves, but then it failed so badly, and it embarrassed them. And but they reported it in a positive way. Of course, during wars, you need to control the narrative, and I've said this in many times that wars are not just the machinery and the weapons and the soldiers. The wars are also about narratives, the story. If you lose the story, sometimes it does not matter how powerful, armed you are. You might lose because you lost the focus on the narrative. And so there is a narrative to it, and there is what actually happened. Now, in this part, Jardine tells us about the different angles of the story that was told after the attack by the Abyssinians on Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. And that I found that to be very interesting. Now, we are going to read what he says about it. He says, in the same month, that is in March 1900, a well-armed Abyssinian expedition of about 1,500 men was dispatched against the Mullah from Harar under the command of Gerasmash Bante. Now, this was the guy, could be an army general of some rank, and they came from Harar, which of course is part, or was at this time, and even today is part of Abyssinia or Ethiopia then. Now, the force failed to locate the Mullah's men, and after looting the rare alley, retired on Jigjiga, where they constructed a large thorn zariba. So they left Harar, they go and try to find Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. They could not find him, but they decided to loot some places, some villages and some settlements, and then they returned and went to Jigjiga, and they set up a camp there. Here they were attacked with an utmost boldness by some 6,000 of the Mullah's Ogaden following, but the Mullah himself was not present. So they settle in a camp. After going out trying to find the Mullah, they don't find him. They loot some settlements, and then they come build this camp. And at night, seems like it was at night, they are attacked by a huge army of about 6,000 people, and of 6,000 men. But turns out Mohammed Abdullah Hassan was not present, but these people, or this army, was actually his army that attacks them. Accounts of this engagement differ. Now, this is where it tells us that the story that is told after is different. The Abyssinians tell a different story, other people tell different stories of the outcome of this battle that happened. According to the Abyssinians, the attack was repulsed with the greatest ease and heavy losses to the enemy, estimated at 2,650. So the Abyssinians report that they managed to repulse, to push back on this attack, and they actually did a lot of damage to that force, giving a number of 2,650, like is the number of soldiers they managed to, of course, eliminate. And then it says Gerasmach Bante himself described the fight as follows. Now, there is a document that this general wrote. Of course, maybe he was writing it to his seniors, and then somehow the British got a copy of it. It is dated 22nd Zilqa'dah 1317, which I guess is the Islamic calendar, and which matches with 24th 1900. After usual Arabic compliments, this letter has been sent from Jigjiga and conveys good news of the fight which took place with the Eastern Sheikh, the Mullah, on Wednesday 13 Majabet 1892, which I guess is the Ethiopian calendar or the Abyssinian calendar. There's a lot of mix-up about the different calendars that were used. There is the Islamic calendar, there is the Abyssinian calendar, and there is, of course, the European calendar. This says the Somali raiding party, Abyssinia military rank, meaning commander of the left wing and ranking with our Major General. So it's giving descriptions of that. An Amharic date. So those are notes about those calendars. The Abyssinian calendar is 7 years and 8 months behind the Gregorian calendar. Majabet corresponds to July, of course. Now, this is the content now of the letter. It says, at 8 o'clock, the enemy's forces arrived in front of the fort. Their numbers were innumerable. The fight did not last 5 minutes before they fled, followed by 4 soldiers who destroyed them. But the sheikh hid himself, and it is said that he did not join the force against us. So this is the report of the commander, the general of the Abyssinian army, saying that they came, yes, but we fought them. And in fact, he makes it sound like it was not a big deal, because it's like just a few of our soldiers followed them. It was not a big deal. He continues, a few of his force escaped, some on horseback and others running and seeking for the safety of their lives, have been made prisoners. So he said they did capture a few of them. We hear, by the favor of God, there are only a few of them left in Harar Digit. We were going after them, but waited to ask the permission of King John Howard. Then we will go after them, and by all means will attack them at Harar Digit. So here is where he kind of like exposes his message, because he says it was no big deal. They came, we repulsed them, we beat them back, and they escaped, they ran away, and it was not a big deal. But then again, he says they were going to go after them, but they are waiting for permission. Now, this is interesting because remember, early on, they had left the camp at Harar to go purposely seek for Mohammed Abdullah Hassan and his army. Now, if it was easy to beat them, and they already had instructions, I guess, when they left Harar, that was their mission. Now, these people have come, it's not a big deal, they are running away. Why wait for permission? It means that's not the story. At least that's what I think, and not just me. Even the British doubted that story. Now, Douglas Jardine says the following. From other accounts, it will seem that the Ogaden, although only armed with spears against the rivals of the Abyssinians, penetrated the Zariba in broad daylight and recaptured all the stock the Abyssinians had looted from the Rare Ali. So, different accounts give a different story. And the story is that actually the attack by the soldiers or the army of Mohammed Abdullah Hassan happened during the day. It did not happen at night. And they were very successful because, remember, I'd say that the Abyssinian army had attacked, and I had gone to look for Mohammed Abdullah Hassan, did not find him. They kind of like looted a few settlements. Now, these people come, they attack, and they take all the loot, meaning their attack was successful if they managed to take all the loot. Indeed, it will seem that although they inflicted heavy casualties on the Ogaden, the Abyssinians were not a little impressed with the fighting abilities of the Ogaden spearmen. And our vice consul at Harar, writing after the engagement, reported as follows. Now, this is a report that comes from Harar. From a British, we can say, sort of ambassador, sort of an officer of that kind. He says, the Abyssinians, it seems, fear the Somalis very much. I have never seen men so afraid as they are now. They have given rifles to children to show they have troops there. So The British themselves have a different view of what happened in this attack. It seems that the Abyssinians did not do very well, even though they reported successes and they make it seem like it's no big deal, it wasn't a big issue. Yeah, so that is the very first attack by the Abyssinians, or an attempt by the Abyssinians to attack Mohammed Abdullah Hassan. And this they did by themselves. They did not do with the British. Seems like they thought maybe something they could manage by themselves, but it did not go well. It seems like it did not go well. Now, the next stage now is for the Abyssinians to form a joint, or to come or do a joint campaign or a joint expedition with the British. And now that is what Douglas Jardine talks about next in this chapter. Those are my random thoughts.